Hey guys, welcome to the show. BALLBUSTERS episode 73. The nature of science and the scientific method. We're going to continue traveling down this road until the end. As usual, if you'd like to support this channel, there are PayPal and Patreon links in the info box below. Let's check on Discord. I know the distinguished Nathan Oakley is in there. Let's see if we have anyone else. Let's start off with Nathan. What's up, sir?
The Sky, how's it going?
Yeah, you always do that. I always run into that one.
How's it going with you? Everything good?
Yeah, good. It's only me and you. That's cool, man. This is quality time. We've been missing that for a long time.
Quality time? It's not live. Oh, happy days. We'll get down to it. Who do you hate in Flat
Earth? I don't hate anyone, actually.
That's not what you told me the other night.
What did I tell you the other night?
You told me you hate everybody.
No, that's a damn lie.
I'm only joking.
I was going to say, boy, what did I say the other night? Right? I was like, uh-oh.
Well, you and I are the least likely to get our handbags out. Now, you ever heard of the taxi cab syndrome? I'll brief you on it. So you got 4 or 3 women in a cab, and they're all talking about how great the night's been. And they pull up to the first woman's house. They open the door. They go, "Bye, Sandra. Bye, bye. Kiss, kiss, kiss. Bye, bye, bye." Door shuts. Fucking hate that bitch. You know what she said about you before we went? And so they carry on. The drive continues. Next woman gets out. "Bye, Cheryl. Have a nice time. Really like to see you." Door closes. You know what Cheryl said about you? Yeah, she absolutely said that. And so it continues. But with that in mind, given that Arwen's not here, what he's been doing recently, very, very irritating. It's not actually. But we're the least likely to get our handbags out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We typically point out where they've got their handbags out with our compadres on BALLBUSTERS.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough. The Adam Meakin, and just in case you didn't know, the Adam Meakin, I talked to him last night. He said that he wasn't going to be able to make it. He had a family conflict, so he's not going to be able to be here today.
Had a family complex.
Conflict. He had something to do with his extended family.
Ugh, those bloody extended family all the time.
Yeah. Well, my extended family kind of lives on my side of the family. They live really far away. My wife's, I know everyone's interested in this. My wife's family's somewhat closer, but yeah, I don't have those issues. Not, they're going to be far between. So that's just the way it turned out. I didn't plan it that way.
Ain't that lovely?
It is lovely. Well, sometimes it is. Now that the kids are getting bigger, they're kind of out of the house, more than when they were young. So they're on the go doing their thing. So the family gatherings, they're getting, how would I say, but less numerous. I don't mind it.
It's truly riveting,
Isn't it?
Sure, you can tell. It is.
What you have for dinner?
It's been 2 weeks since the last BALLBUSTERS, and I don't know. I ask this daily, so it's hard to sort of respin out the same questions in terms of what's been going on in Flat Earth since we last spoke. But it isn't since we last spoke because we spoke a couple of days ago.
Yeah, we did. You closed. You had a pretty good show the other day. I was getting frustrated by it. I didn't say anything. I just let it go and go and go and go because I was listening and doing something else. But it, all in all, Adam and I were talking a little bit about it last night. That it shows, and I don't even know why we have to show this. That it's not an echo chamber. I mean, we are always challenging. It's not challenging each other, but the ideas. But we've always been that way. So I've never seen it any other way. So when people say echo chambers, I'm like, what? It's the opposite of that. Always been.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought it was just because Brian's Irish.
It's not even.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. it's not just Brian. It was anyone that comes in. I mean, it's fair. We try not to attack the person, but if you have a thought or an idea, you better have it tight, or it's going to get challenged. And I don't remember a time when it wasn't that way.
Well, I was told recently that Arwin had an earful from some of our panel members, let's call them, because he's sort of adopted a role on Flat Earth Debate of playing Baldwin, and Baldwin is like the representation of what a baller would present as their argument. And then, obviously, at some point, he's got to shut up and actually let the debunking come through. Mm-hmm. But he's got so into character, it's gone a bit beyond method acting. And he sort of has also started, or had, this didn't last long, sort of rumpusing the rebuttal. In other words, taking it like, hang on, this is the moment and the devastating response to this argument that he, this case, Baldwin, has put forward. Therefore, I should really be rumpusing the crap out of this, shouldn't I? It's like, no. That's when you've taken it too far. Because obviously the audience still needs to hear it without the fundy muting and the Discord rumblings. But that's what he was doing. So a few people took him on one side and gave him a good kicking.
And what I noticed also, it's more challenging for you because you need to keep control. Well, you got a whole room full of Discord. Then you got the other room in the Hangout. It's really difficult. And like I said, with that many people, because you can't see each other, right? So, and then some people say there's a lag. Is there one or isn't there one? Sometimes I think there is. All it has to be is a fraction, a couple fractions of a second. And it turns into utter chaos. So you got a difficult job. People don't know how hard that is. That's why I don't put up with that nonsense on here.
10th Man pointed out that while I might have my ship as tight as possible with absolutely no leaks and very low latency, I've gone to into the Earth to get the latency as low as possible. And I've tested it. It's in the milliseconds. It's nothing.
Yeah.
Really, it's nothing. The problem is that if you're out in a crappy area for signal, then you give the latency at the other end, right?
Right.
You're not catching it in time, and then you're introducing your speech at the wrong moment because you're the one with the latency as the guest.
Yes.
And I think Neil's pointed out a couple of times, look, there was a gap. You're like, maybe there was for you, but not for us.
Yeah. But it's pretty cool. Like I said, I enjoyed the show. The shows are getting more interesting, even though the ballers aren't around. Very interesting. Some interesting topics are coming up. In-depth discussions on them. Some are kind of silly, I think, but that's my own opinion. But some are very interesting and need to be aired. I think this sounds crazy. I'm kind of liking that. I don't know about you.
I mean, there's a lot of intellectual honesty. So the other day we were discussing, basically, a lot of things always come back to entropy. So, go figure. But in terms of the effects that we're describing and how we're describing them, they are, after all, just abstract descriptions. And therefore, they are open to interpretation, and they are potentially bettered in terms of better linguistics, better descriptions, more concise descriptions. It doesn't change what you're observing occur always. Let's get that absolutely clear. But there might be better alternatives in terms of the description. And when you get down to the minutiae of this sort of stuff, there's going to be certain people that say, no, I feel it is better to describe it in this way. And on both sides, you've got a bit of a deadlock because you've got to both concede that neither of you know why this is happening, right? While you're just concisely describing it again and again in more concise ways to get it across to the audience better. But, again, the minutiae of that descended into a couple of hours of, very heated discussion between Sleeping Warrior, Brian, a few other people. And it was fascinating. There are also misconceptions ironed out. Unless you let somebody go through their logic of how they've come to this conclusion or how they have decided that that's the best way to describe something, you don't necessarily know how they've processed some of the information. And it is often wrong. There's certain misconceptions about gas on our own side, flat Earth side, that is. I don't even have to give that disclaimer at the moment. It's so the ballers' response is so lacking. It is us putting their arguments, debunking them, and then discussing some of the minutiae of things like entropy.
Yeah,
and it's great. That's how it should be. Getting down to the nitty gritty of what is, and can we better describe this thing that occurs always? Well, yeah, I think we probably could. Definitely make it more concise.
Yes, I agree. And like you said, it is uncanny how the everything boils down to entropy. Not everything, but I would say a good 95%. Always comes back home to entropy. You're right. I noticed that not too far into this. I said, you know what? I'm spending a lot of time on entropy. I think we talked about that at one point also.
But it's more than that, though, isn't it? Because if you ever, again, a sort of unwritten rule that we won't ask, well, what comes before that? When you're talking about entropy, talking about change with time, right? Now, if you think of something like an explosion, you've got to start. I've used this intentionally in case you think I'm paralleling it with the Big Bang. I'm not. If you think of that process, you've got something at the beginning, and then you've got all of this stuff expanding out, right? Big Bang. Well, if you rewind that, that's what you're talking about. If you say, well, what's the cause of all of that? And you rewind the process right back to the beginning. Now, obviously, in this case, you've got a man-made firework. But if you do that in the entirety of time, you basically always come back to the same two questions, and they're the ontological primitives. Then when you get to those two questions, I already know the outcome for those. So it's like, this will always come back to the same point. There is a God. You start exploring some of these concepts that we're describing and the conventions we use to describe them. It just always comes back to, well, what's the beginning of all that then? Well, a knower. Somebody to know something that you can call God, call it Yahweh, call it whatever the hell you like. I don't really care. There was a knower at the beginning of all of that. It wasn't just nature poofing itself into existence. That's not possible. It violates a natural law. You're left with one only conclusion when you start talking about a lot of the things we are discussing. And the more it pains me to say it, one of the aspects of Mark Sargent's videos when he said that they're hiding God, there's a lot of truth in that.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I thought when I first come out here, I thought that was the slap in the face. If anyone's looking for a reason, why would they lie? I mean, if that doesn't slap you in the face, you got bigger problems than whether the Earth is flat or a sphere or any other shape. Because that was just right out in front. It's almost palpable.
First sip of the cup of natural science will make you an atheist, but at the bottom of the cup, God is waiting for you.
Yep. Exactly. And most haven't even taken the sip yet. They haven't even gotten the cup. But they think they can because they think they can parrot wiki and that'll cover them. It just doesn't work anymore, man. It's like you said the other day, it's flipped. It's so flipped right now. They've got to be, as a collective, I don't know how they can view it any other way. Or anyone else that's looking in from the outside that's not involved. But if they've been tracking over the past 3 years or so, I thought it flipped a long time ago, but it's really, really noticeable these days because you got regular Joe flat earthers coming up against seasoned baltards and tearing them to shreds.
Well, the flip, for the audience's benefit, what the specific example that's happened in the last couple of weeks is with geometry. So you rewind to 2017 and the ballers were telling us whilst debating about the Isle of Man that we just didn't understand basic geometry. We didn't understand a simple straight line tangent point to a geometric physical obstruction of the Isle of Man. We just didn't understand that geometry. Fast forward to now, I just don't understand simple geometry. Straight lines for triangles with right angles, they just don't get it. They don't understand simple geometry, these bloody globers. It was all bluff. That's the reality. It was all bluff all along.
It was all you hit it. It was all bluff. You got it. That's all it was. And now, even like I said, even the rank and file flat earthers, even the new guys that are coming out, because they're getting all the new arguments. They're not that difficult, right? So you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure these out. You just have to know what circles and triangles are and where the horizon should be or not. And that's pretty much it. You more or less got it. So, They're just handing ballers their asses, man, at every turn. Sometimes I just sit back. I do more sitting back now and not saying anything. It's hard to because people recognize me and they're thank you right away, right? And I don't like sock accounts. I'm never gonna. Just for your information, I'll never have a sock account. That ain't gonna happen. So, but I try to sit back and be quiet and just listen. Right? So, I didn't do that last night, by the way.
You've got to get involved. It's easy. I mean, the thing for me now is it's not stressful. You know, occasionally you'll be sat in. I often, more often than not, watch my chat feed go by. And there was a time when I couldn't help get involved when I saw some fundy declaration made. Now it just washes over me. I don't care. I recognise the reality of the situation. They're saying that because they're in pain. Just like I was when I felt I had to respond to them. Now, I try and get this across to Neil, but I can't find the words to try and make sense to him what I'm trying to make sense to you, the audience, right now. Just to say that there will come a point where you stop caring. I don't mean you just give up on life. I'm not taking it to that sort of extreme. What I mean by that is you lose your empathy for the person that is actually expressing their pain when they say, we all know it's a sphere, you idiot. You are dumb globe. You're a dumb flat earther, or whatever you say, or gets said to you rather. So your reaction to that, eventually, for me at least, it's come to a point where you go, I don't care what you think. I know that that is you expressing your pain because it's your own self-doubt that leads you to express it here in this chat. Now, I have no self-doubt in this regard, so I don't need to argue the toss with them. But sometimes it's fun. Like, literally, it's just entertainment. Oh, right, you think the Earth's a sphere, where's your R value? let's see this go for 15 minutes just to kill a bit of time for entertainment's sake. But the tables have entirely turned, and in terms of the comments, so there's a few people, you know who you are, by the way, if you're watching this and you've commented on Flat Earth Debate, you know who you are when I make this remark. You'll go, oh, that's me. And there's several of you that will comment under the shows that don't have any interjection from globe-believing fundies whatsoever. And it'll be a show that after the fact, I'll still go back and watch and go, I really enjoyed that show. There was no fighting, there was no arguments. There might have been, but there wasn't any, it was internal in terms of discussions that just progressed our understandings of like concepts, second law of thermodynamics, entropy, things like that, forward a little bit. How we can verbalize them, how we can discuss them. Shows like that. And not all of them are great, but sometimes there'll be a really good show and I'll go, that was so ram-packed with educational content for anybody who's come to this subject. Just comes down, sits and listens to what was discussed. They'll leave going, I better understand geometry. I better understand how you can't have that geometry work on a sphere. I better understand how the horizon's not physical or whatever. And they'll comment. They'll go, what a great show or banger of a show or what, and they're commenting on it in a way that tells me that they're recognizing the value of the education rather than the value of the debate. I.e. the screaming match when they're just trying to fundy mute and use the tactics. Now that they've all got too scared to actually debate with us anymore because all the arguments have been defeated, it does just come down to the people on the panel wanting to educate the audience and almost fighting with each other to make it more concise. Oh, I think my method of telling people how this works is better. How dare you challenge that it's not as good as yours? And so on and so forth. In other words, it's kind of, how can we best educate the people watching?
Yep.
Rather than, you think it's a globe? Well, I can debunk that. Well, your debunking is going to be met with me chanting through the top of it for 15 to 20 minutes.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, though. I just get the same. It seems like it's a rinse and repeat because, like I said, I don't get into as many discussions as I did before, especially in text. I'll go in there every now and again and put down the presentation, the one I sent you, with the elevation angle, and they just whistle past the graveyard right by it. It's really hilarious. But go ahead.
No, I didn't say anything. I was just thinking to myself, you can't have a curved adjacent. Are you dropping it in? And like you say, most of the time the argument continues. And in some ways I kind of have a heavy heart when that happens because you think, okay, this hasn't necessarily, penny hasn't fully dropped with the audience yet. Or the panel members in some regard. Yeah. Because you hear that, you should just say, right, stop everything. Yeah, that's right. Need a vertex. Two straight lines. That's it. It's the end of the argument. Yep. If you can't rest on your anchors at that point and say, I don't need to do anything else, I can just repeat that. Like they chant their fundy belief at me because it is actually correct. you're never going to get a curved adjacent. You can't have one. It's geometrically not viable.
Yep.
So it's the end of the argument. Really quick with this. And it's not taking long, as much as, like I say, some of the arguments don't stop on their own, because when that's dropped in by you and it's heard, you can hear you saying it in the debates. It's not like it's not making it through. It should draw a complete halt to the discussion. It doesn't. It will. Bit time. 6 months tops.
Nah, people like to argue, man. They like to extend. They like to go into something else. I had a Baltard do that. Now, I'm just talking about the Baltards now. And I did that same exact thing last night. I said it. The argument's very quick. Came down to show me a curved adjacent. And he wanted to go on. A master's degree holder, Matthew learns in 24/7. He wanted to go on to different subjects. And I said, well, and then see what drives me absolutely crazy? The other flat earthers in there will chase his tail and then, give him the opportunity right here. I'm going, whoa. Did he show us a curved adjacent yet? People just, I don't know whether they just like to hear themselves talk or.
No, I think it's something else.
What?
The other day, I put it down to people having too much empathy on the flat earth side. And I'm going to be really brutal. I don't think there's enough winners in the flat earth side. They don't know when they've won. They don't recognize victory when you see it. They don't smell blood when it's been spilt. They carry on.
You think that's what it is?
Yeah. People don't know when they've won.
I haven't factored that in. I thought that was just prima facie self-evident.
No. One of the reasons, again, I count off that victory, because I know when I've won, right? And I'm going to make that point and count it. So, for instance, you can't get a curved adjacent. Response, let's talk about gravity for a bit, because gravity is technically connected, red herring fallacy. Right? No, where'd you get your curved adjacent? That's twice. Well, no, gravity is related because geodesics are talked about in Einstein's gravity. Therefore, this is going to be related. I promise you. Let me go on to this red herring and beg the question of fourth dimensions. Where'd you get your curved adjacent? That's 3. How many more? I know I've won. Why would I not count it off and let the audience know that this isn't going to go away? And, if it was unreasonable for me to count off every single time I've won, I'd be stopped. Wouldn't get away with it, would I?
Nope.
I'd count off victories you haven't actually earned.
They do. They count the victories.
Exactly. That's you got there quick, like great minds. Exactly. So our opponents, on the other hand, will declare false victory and claim it as their own and own that victory they didn't get. Whereas the flat earthers don't know when they've won.
Yeah. I think we pinpointed it. Yep. That's exactly what's happening. Sure. Like I've been telling a lot of people now, it's been this way for a while. I know I bring it up every now and again, but I just have to tell you, for me personally, it's like shooting hippos in a fishbowl. Seriously. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what topic it is. At this point, we're so far in now, I can do it in my sleep. Every avenue. I can go to 10 avenues off a single argument in light speed. Right? And know every single aspect of it. So I find it, I wouldn't say I'm getting bored. I need some new meat.
Maybe the newbies recognizing the arguments and taking them away and knocking ballers around with them is something that we can observe and take joy in next if this is becoming tedious for you. In respect that there's no challenge. I get it. If you're at the top of your game as a boxer and everyone that steps in the ring gets knocked out with one punch, you suddenly start going, this is too easy.
Yeah.
I actually do want somebody to knock me back a couple of times. That would actually present me with a challenge.
Yes.
Which isn't coming our way. Now, maybe that's the plan. Offer them absolutely no challenge and they'll get bored. Me, nah, not really. I'm the other way around. I actually quite like my show quite quiet. I've no issues whatsoever with it being this way. Because I'm not a fighter. I'm a lover. I'm not interested in knocking these people around. I'm not. I'm generally a very kind and warm-hearted guy. I might not come across that way, but, trust me, you get battle-hardened when you're on the battlefield. That's all that's happened here. It doesn't change me as my personality hasn't changed. My persona online might have changed a little bit. But ultimately speaking, you're right. There's very little challenge. There is something else that we don't factor in when I say there's not enough winners. I don't mean that as if to say that you're all losers on the flat Earth. That's not what I mean by that. What I mean is there's a certain level of self-doubt in terms of the information itself. It's such a revelation. In order to be on the battleground on the side of flat Earth, getting battle-hardened and getting thrown, the stones thrown at you and all the rest of it, and the swords thrown your way. Well, to get to that stage, if you're not necessarily 100% certain in terms of what you know and why you know it, it's going to be very difficult to get into the battle and start swinging your sword around. Because partially, I think the reason people don't know when they've won is because they don't fully 100% appreciate why the arguments are as strong as they are. So they'll put the argument across because they've seen it put to great effect, and they don't know why, and they don't know whether they've won or why they've won. So it's like, okay, yeah, you've employed the argument, and it has actually won you the argument. But the problem was that when the person started trying to change the subject, you didn't realise that was because you'd won.
Yep.
You didn't recognise the obfuscation tactic as their lack of rebuttal because they'd lost.
Yeah.
You let them get away. You let them be the fish that wriggled off the line.
Yes. And it'll almost certainly be an ad-hom. It'll be something to get you going, right? To get off the subject, try to knock you off your game a little bit. They all do it. I don't think it's premeditated. It's just how it's when you're on a second grade playground. That's what happens. There's nothing left. I mean, you're left to that sort of dialogue because it's over. But that's what I find a lot. And they try to, sometimes it'll get me off my game, maybe it just depends. Not all the time. It depends on the mood I'm in. Sometimes it works, but it doesn't work. I always hone back to the point. I'm always thinking tactically, what are they doing? And for the most part, that they're trying to get out of that argument. So as you already know, I always circle back. It might take a couple minutes, but I always circle back right to that point. So, and you do it also. I hear it all the time. Well, let's get back to the actual point here. What's the claim? There's another thing that I see a lot happening with the flat earthers. I don't think the claim is clarified in the beginning, because I find myself, through listening, and then I'll be listening for a little while, and then I'll say, well, wait a second, what's the actual claim? So you'll hear me bring that up all the time. Go ahead. What's the claim again? Right? Because I think people just veer off the main road and head down the hedgerows. Right? I don't know if you've noticed that.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll allow it as you've described it, or do it as well. It's a tolerance of it, so that I'm not accused of not letting the argument get through.
Mm-hmm.
So while I get praised for not letting people beg the question when it's really obvious, the example I gave a moment ago where, well, let's talk about gravity because there's a geodesic that's being bent. So therefore, when I claim there's a bent radius, I can describe it with geodesics. Now, there is a temptation to say, no, you can't. And here's why. It's better to let them wander off into the weeds for a couple of minutes because I've got a noose around the neck and I've got a firm grip on the rope. Okay, off you go. Wander into the weeds for a couple of minutes. Then you should yank it back. Right, back you come. Where's your bent radius? No, we weren't talking about radius. Out there in the weeds, I was talking about geodesics. Yeah. Now you're back in front of me, aren't you? Eye to eye, toe to toe. Where's your bent radius?
Yeah, I noticed you doing it. Yeah, you've been doing it for a long time. That's why I don't say anything, because I know you're always going to come back to the main point. So that's not an issue. I find a lot of other people have issues with that. And like I said in the beginning, as soon as the power of suggestion as to flat earthers as a whole, I'm telling you, 99% the power of suggestion will Jedi mind trick them. And I'm just telling you guys out there so you're aware, right? Because I hear it every single day. They Jedi mind trick you with some word or some phrase or some concept away from the argument, and you chase it down. Don't do that. That's a tell for you were circling around the kill. Just to let you know.
Yeah, I think you'll find that's the power of Grayskull.
Yes, it is, sir. Speaking of Grayskull, we got the power of the Grayskull scientific method, and we haven't and never will let it go. It's a massacre out there for them with the scientific method and science in general. Don't you just love it?
Do. It's been taken for granted by my own side on my own panel almost daily. I'll ask them, any scientific evidence of gravity? You'll get some question like, have you got back in touch with Dr. Becky? Like, oh, no,
hey, I said that.
No shit.
It wasn't a big deal. I'm just making conversation. Wise ass.
Oh, that's so now to push Neil's buttons in an instant, don't I?
Yes, you do.
Terrible, really.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it this quick.
Is that 3 seconds?
Well,
Here we go with the 2 seconds. Well, you
Hey.
hold me to that, right?
hey, Neil. Get your mic squared away, man. It's terrible.
That's the area I'm in.
I'll piss Nathan right off and turn you up a little bit.
In seriousness, I mean, that question from Neil is complacency, basically. You know, we've got so used to the power of the scientific method being employed that when the housekeeping questions come around, we're dealing with some periphery, which is to say that Dr. Becky talked about science and they said, oh, well, I'm doing science. I'm sending emails and sat at my computer listening to iTunes. You know, and it's like, you're not doing science. You're not establishing the cause of anything you've watched in nature occur. You're not doing science. So, you know, 10th Man a year and a half ago got in touch with her and was like, what are you playing at? This isn't science. How do you justify it? Their response, they chased her up a couple of times and now it's sort of like every so often it'll come up. But, you know, there was a time when this subject that we're discussing right now will be in a few minutes once I've done this lead, once I've done this segue.
Yeah, I'm waiting.
I'm getting there.
I know you are. You're fine.
There was a time when this was a gold-plated chainsaw. There was a lot of people, you know, negotiating the cave to get to it. You know, the guy's name with the hat, whatever his name is, Indiana Jones style, right? So they saw that golden chainsaw at the end of that cave, and they wanted it. Right now, a few of them got it, got hold of that golden chainsaw, and started swinging it around, and it did cause some damage. A few of them lost their own arms, but there was a time when people saw it for what it was—a very, very, very powerful tool that, in the right hands, caused mass devastation. The globe argument, get us back on track, and just not even a good understanding, a rudimentary understanding of the scientific method will get you there with most ball arguments. Believe me, you don't have to have a good understanding of it. You just have to understand what it is at a really almost crude level.
Yep.
Just a basic understanding will get you there.
Yep.
I'm done. I can't think of anything else to say.
No, you're exactly right. Once you get down to it, if you know what a hypothesis is and its parts and an experiment and its parts, it's over. It's over for every single ball-tard. There's nothing they can do. I think
exactly.
I think people try to or they attempt to overthink it when it doesn't need to be. I find that a lot. Even over the past year, there's been plenty of occasions where I was just sitting in a hangout and listening when ball-tards have come in. They don't come in your show anymore, but 24/7, the ball-tard, they're still coming. Whether they're new, I don't hear too many veterans over there, but they get the flat earthers. I don't know what it is, but they get just tongue tied with the issue. My phone's going off. Sorry about that, guys. Hold on one second.
I'll fill. I mean, we were very privileged on Flat Earth Debate to have a younger, fresher, more vibrant quantum eraser. You know, wasn't quite so tarnished as he is today. And he taught us, took a long time and a lot of effort to teach us with his pink writing how to actually put this argument to a glober once they claim science. That pink writing stuck in a lot of people's head. Not mine, I'm colourblind. I didn't know it was pink. Otherwise, I'd have probably said something. That pink writing stuck in a lot of people's minds. And it established certain processes within their minds that they can go through like clockwork now. You hear the claim, oh, that's science. Oh, really? What's your observed natural phenomena, please? First step, scientific method would be to observe something occurring, something that you want to study, something you want to figure out the cause of. That's what science is all about. Physical and natural world. You've got to have something actually happening to ask the question, why did that happen? And that's what science is about. If you're going to be doing science, you've got to have a phenomenon. First thing that you've got to establish. Oh, what is that phenomenon? What are you looking at? What are you trying to figure out? Well, if they haven't got that, which most of the time they haven't even got that, then they haven't got science. Offer you an equation, they've got maths. Now, this particular aspect, I'll be interrupted at some point by QE to tell me to shut up, but I will blabber on indefinitely.
No, you're good. Go ahead. No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Good, you're off the phone.
Yes.
I know it's how long to keep this. Yeah. I mean, I'll just summarize what I did in my last segue. There is a point where you've got a basic understanding of cause and effect relationships. That's all science is. It's just dealing with cause and effect. See an effect, you want to know what causes it. So you vary things that you think cause it. And when you get the thing that does cause it, you've established the cause of it. It really is that simple. And what I've just described in terms of varying something you think causes the effect you observed in nature, that's called an experiment. The methodology of what you will employ to do that experiment is called a hypothesis. And after you've performed the experiment and validated the thing that caused the effect, you can develop a theory. Well, these are the most hijacked words by our opponents. Theory, experiment, and hypothesis. Well, if you're in the context of the physical and natural world, and in this debate that is all we're talking about, they use any of those words, you can immediately say, what's your natural phenomenon? Those 4 words will annihilate any claim of science that isn't actually backed by empirical, systematic experimentation that's been through the method. And most of the time, and I mean 99.9% of the time, it hasn't. So that's why the chainsaw is, brutal and also quite dangerous, because I'll lead out before QE starts with saying this, the danger that I'll add, which I'm hoping QE will actually add at the end of this presentation as well. Yeah. Not everything is science, right? Not everything involves natural phenomena and cause and effect relationships, right? Some things can be based in logic. Some things can be based in maths. These things aren't evil just because they're not science. It's only when they're asserted to be science, when they're not, it becomes pseudoscience. That doesn't mean to say that the maths itself is bad. Nothing wrong with maths. It's just a language. It's just abstract. When you say it's science, it makes it sound like it's empirical, which is what the method offers, empiricism, which is why you hear it so often. It implies, when used wrongly, that whatever you state thereafter with a measurement, normally, is empirical. Well, not in the way that science provides empiricism, it isn't. Therefore, pseudoscience, tarnishing the measurements that somebody might have made that were perfectly legitimate. So in the context of what we discuss here, though, in the context of globe Earth versus flat Earth, we have been told for a number of years, and I'm sure as an audience member who's not involved in the debate, specifically Flat Earth debate or Ballbusters, will hear all of science proves we're on a sphere. And nothing could be further from the truth. That's why we as Flat Earthers are saying it's a powerful chainsaw in our possession. It's not a chainsaw they can pick up at all, because they don't have any science. Hopefully that's a good enough segue, QE.
Oh, they don't even know what it is. Back to before the phone interrupted me. I forgot to take it off the hook. I usually do that. What I was saying is sometimes that I'm in these hangouts and a lot of flat earthers, they have the headlines, but they, again, the ballers Jedi mind trick them into other things, and they don't follow up. You said it right in the beginning. The observed natural phenomena. Just the hypothesis, just focus on the hypothesis, because you can't get around having a hypothesis. We're going to talk about that here today. You must have it. So if you know what a hypothesis is, an actual scientific hypothesis, it's over. Because you know the parts, independent variable, dependent variable. Well, what's the dependent variable? That's the effect. That's what your observed natural phenomena. That'll swing it back to step one. And then you have the independent variable, which is your cause. It is the cause factor that you must manipulate, the researcher. If you know that, it's over. So don't make it too complicated out there, guys. It's just that simple. There's no secret knowledge, right? And we've gone through this presentation over the past, I don't know, couple months, very slowly. You can always go back and listen to it to get the meat of the presentation. And what you can do, because we always sit here and talk for a while because that's what we do. What you can do is you can just fast forward and just hover your mouse over the presentations and just wait for my screen to pop up and then whack, play, right? Just like we're going to do now. See? You see this pop up on the screen. That means, yep, play. That's a great, wasn't that a great, didn't I segue that great?
You did, but for any post-millennials out there, off the hook is a reference to old-fashioned telecommunication systems, just so you know.
Yeah, I still have that vernacular. Yeah. Oh, 1 second.
Subscribe to Nathan Oakley 1980 and Nathan Oakley respectively.
All right, I'm good now. Yeah, somebody entered the house. I thought it was an intruder. You'd have been through, boy. All right, let's go into this. We're going to talk a little bit about theory. This isn't going to be all that long. I kind of thumbed through it earlier this morning, and it's not going to be all that long, but it's got some gems in it. And this is the first gem out of the gate. And Nathan touched on it just a little bit earlier about the use of the term theory, right? There's a little equivocation fallacy going on. They're still doing it after all these years. That they say, well, I have a theory, or the theory says, no. See, there's two little definitions here that are getting equivocated. That is theory, the colloquial term theory, which all that means, just like I have it here, from dictionary.com, it's a mere conjecture or a guess. It's speculation. That couldn't be any... You couldn't get any further away from what an actual scientific theory means. So what they'll do is they'll equivocate that. I always stop them. That's a trigger word. As soon as I hear theory, whether it's baller or flatter, as soon as I hear theory, I'm on it, right? Because we have to iron out what these terms mean, these terms or phrases mean. So, as I said, a theory, colloquially, a mere conjecture or guess or abject speculation versus a scientific theory. From chemistry about, a scientific theory summarizes a hypothesis or group of hypotheses that have been supported with repeated testing. From quarks to quasars, a scientific theory consists of one or more hypotheses that have been supported with repeated testing. If you're starting to see a consistency among these, well, there's a reason why, because that's what it exactly is. From the University of Rochester Physics Labs, a scientific theory represents a hypothesis or group of related hypotheses which has been confirmed through repeated experimental tests. So that should put the dagger in right there. Right? See, they're all saying the same thing. Scientific American, the University of Rochester Physics Labs, quarks to quasars, chemistry, they're all going to tell you the same thing, right? In order to have a scientific theory, you must have this guy, right? And to have that guy, you must have hypotheses. And to have hypotheses, you must have independent and dependent variables. In order to have a dependent variable, you must have an observed natural phenomenon. See how it flows even backwards, right? You can't have an actual scientific theory without it already being validated or confirmed by experiment. You can't say theory, and then when I ask you where's the experiment and you don't have one, well, then it's not a scientific theory. It's just that easy. And you can't have math or equations for a flippant scientific theory either. You're never going to see a scientific theory equation. Never. It's not going to happen because it's non sequitur. It doesn't follow. Scientific theory is based on cause and effect relationships. It's an explanation. Whereas mathematics, at best, at the very best, the tip top, can only describe the existence. See, I'm switching up from what is questions because a lot of people I found over the past few weeks, I've noticed this and I brought it up last night. I'm going to change it a little bit from how, why explanations to existence questions because a lot of people were getting confused with the what is. So it's either existence or that's descriptions or a yes-no description, right? Or how, why, an explanation. That's the difference between the two. So just be on the alert for the little change there. And now, the cat romancer, you're lucky that we didn't go over this last week because you'd have been toast, right? Although I did go over this many times before. This is very interesting, and I like this topic a lot. Logic and the scientific method. Now remember, the method itself is logical. The results have nothing to do with logic. Your experimental results have nothing whatsoever to do with logic. We're only talking about the method. How the steps proceed is logical. So, the scientific method is conducting using two and only two forms of logic. That's abductive and deductive. There's three types of inferences. Abductive, deductive, and we're going to get to induction down below. Just a FYI, a lot of people make this mistake, and it's not only in this community, this has been going on for years. And they confuse induction with inference, and that's it. No, there's three types of inference: abduction, deduction, and the other one, induction. So just be careful of that out there. I know a lot of people are confused about that, mainly flat earthers, by the way, in that subtopic. So I always correct them. So, like I said, only two are used as evidenced by. This is pretty funny. Check this out from explorable.com. Listen closely. Abductive reasoning. A number of facts from a multitude of sources, such as literature reviews and general observations, are gathered together. After an assessment of this information, the most likely hypothesis to explain the observations is adopted as the starting point of research. Abduction is seen very much as the starting point of research process, giving a rational explanation, allowing deductive reasoning to dictate the exact experimental design. So, abduction. What it consists of in the scientific method: literature reviews, observations, there's three of them, and hypotheses. Where have we seen that before? So abductive reasoning is employed to establish, like I said, observations, literature reviews, hypotheses. Then deductive reasoning takes over, is more narrow and generally used to test or confirm that hypothesis that you constructed from the other three steps, right? So where have we seen observations, literature reviews, hypothesis, and experiment at? It couldn't have been right here. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I had this long before Mr. Explorable.com entered into this fray. Funny. This echoes the scientific method I have now. Look at that. Step 1, observe a phenomena. Step 2, literature review. Step 3, construct formal hypothesis. That takes care of abduction part of the scientific method. Here comes the last part, deduction, test and experiment. Funny how this just all lines up. Forwards, backwards, sideways, no inconsistencies, no paradoxes, no contradictions. You like that, huh? If the glove fits, right? So abduction, no conclusions are drawn. Observing phenomena, literature reviews, educated guesses, that's hypothesis construction. Deduction is general to specific. It leads to certainty. Certainty. Facts. All A or B and all C or A. Therefore, all C must be B. Deduction. As opposed to induction, it's specific to the general. Leads to probability or likelihood. Anytime you hear probability, likelihood, correlation, should send off alarm bells that you're in the induction stadium, right? That has nothing to do with science. Most A or B, and this C is A, therefore this C is likely B. That's induction. Be careful out there. You'll get a lot of ballers. I don't know what they're smoking. And they seem to all, it's like a chorus line. They all appeal to Karl Popper. And they all say that science is based on induction. That couldn't be more non sequitur. He says the opposite. We're going to get to that here in a second. But just be careful out there, all right? Anytime you hear, like I said, probability, likelihood, or correlation, that's when you know your induction. Just start bringing out the nail spike 44-inch Louisville Slugger, because it's over for anyone who says that. Now, this is very important. From Lumen Learning. The difference between abductive reasoning and inductive reasoning is a subtle one. Both use evidence to form guesses that are likely, but not guaranteed to be true. However, listen up. Abductive reasoning looks for cause and effect relationship, while induction seeks to determine general rules. That's where the demarcation line is between the two, right? Cause and effect, that's abduction. Well, we know that has only to do with the scientific method, right? Lil C becoming a successful scientist. Scientific hypothesis is based on cause and effect reasoning. Well, that's pure abduction, not induction. A scientific hypothesis does not merely state X and Y may be related, but explains why they are related. From Drexel University, the scientific method is hypothesis-driven. The whole method is hypothesis-driven. One makes an educated guess to explain a cause and effect abduction relationship. It's all abduction. That's all a hypothesis is. From Anne-Marie Helmstein, PhD Biomedical Sciences, a hypothesis is an educated guess based on observation. It's a prediction of cause and effect. That's abduction. Pure abduction. No induction whatsoever. Why do we need that? The hypothesis, right? It's the queen of the scientific method. From one of the kings of the pseudoscientists, Sean Carroll. California Institute of Technology physicist Sean Carroll arguing in The Edge that hypotheses aren't simply useful tools in some potentially outmoded vision of science. They're the whole point. See, the Baltards are done right here, right? They're finished. It's all over for them because they can't go against one of their chief priests. So this kills them right here. Got to go to hypothesis. And again, what is hypothesis? That's abductive, causation, hypothesis construction. Deductive is experiment. This is science. And only this is science and the scientific method. No caveats. You can't weasel anything else in. Abduction and deduction. That's science. As opposed to, like I said, correlation or induction. Same thing. Probability or likelihood. Remember, correlation doesn't equal causation. Ergo, this is pseudoscience. As soon as somebody mentions induction, it's over. In the scientific context. It's all over. And finally, the King Cheese, philosopher of science. Who we got here? Who is that? Let's squirm him in there. Hey, stop popping up. Karl Popper. Like I said before, I don't understand it. I mean, I don't know whether it's Dunning-Kruger or textual pareidolia, but these people have never read Karl Popper. Because saying that he thought that induction ruled science is the opposite of what he said. We went through this. Surprisingly, we went through this last night. Somebody else brought this subject up about Karl Popper and falsification and induction, and it was a train wreck. It's the opposite of what you ballers think it is. I hear it all the time now. So what did Karl Popper say about induction? As mentioned via wiki, from Karl Popper, 1963, Conjectures and Refutations, The Growth of Scientific Knowledge. As mentioned in the section, The Problem of Induction, Popper's response to the problem of induction is simply that induction is actually never used in science. Like I said, it jumps off the page at you when you read Karl Popper. Right? I don't get it. Are you just making this up? Again, from Conjectures and Refutations, Karl Popper, a philosopher of science, sought to solve the problem of induction. We're going to get to that here in a second. He argued that science does not use induction, second time, and induction is in fact a myth. I'm not getting it, guys. I'm really not. I mean, so if you hear Karl Popper and induction, they're opposites, polar opposites. And the problem of induction, Karl Popper's quintessential example of the problem of induction is the black swan. As in the black swan fallacy, i.e. all swans are white. Just to dovetail back, right? We're doing a whole bunch of connections here, huh? You gotta love it. Thanks, Karl. Appreciate that. Just destroy ballers with this. Not only because he said it, just walk through it, right? A hypothesis is based on cause and effect. There's no probability or likelihood, right? That independent variable either causes the effect or it doesn't. It's either a yes or no. It's black or white. There's no induction there. There's no correlation or probability or likelihood. It's either a yes or no, black and white. There's your example. It's over. Questions or comments up to this point? We only got a short section left.
Ellie, me and Neil here. Yeah, you're probably right. I'd have probably caught it when that Whisperer guy, or whatever you call him, was around. Scattergun me with too much stuff. And I obviously cognitively decided this was the least important thing to focus on. But there we go. I got enough of the people on the panel giving me earache over it. And you're probably right. If I'd have had this fresh in my mind when having that discussion, I'd have probably collared it first rather than last, or leave it unchecked till you got there, to be more accurate.
It wasn't. I heard him say it, and like you said, it was just you were getting bombarded. I'm not trying to make excuses for you. There was a lot of topics flying around, right? And we talked about that. That happens. It just does. And if you're not looking out for it, if it's something that's not a trigger word, because there was plenty left on that tree to destroy other than that. So I don't think it was a big deal. Somebody else thought it was a big deal. He's in my chat right now.
Who's that?
Anthony.
Yeah, he ribbed me about it as well.
I thought it was unfair. Anthony, you shouldn't dog him out for that. You just mention it, say, hey, the abduction, deduction, and the logic, you just bring it up and let it go. He knows better. It's just been
a lawyer, so his logic head is obviously screwed on better than mine is, so it's going to be something that sort of piques his interest, and he's going to pay more attention to whether or not it got addressed because his mind's that way wired, isn't it?
Yeah. Or he's off his medication.
One or the other.
Yeah. So it's really important, guys. Just remember, because you'll be hearing it. I hear it on other debates too. I watch other debates, and this invariably comes up for some reason. I don't know why, but it'll come up and you'll hear a lot of people talking. Even Danny Faulkner comes stumbling into 24/7. I wasn't there. I heard the tape. Comes stumbling 24/7. Even that numpty said that science is all about induction. I was like, see, and those guys didn't know any better.
Sorry.
And, go ahead.
The reason is because what they have is their version of science, which isn't science, it's pseudoscience, and often it's employing statistics.
Right.
So they want it to be induced, they want it to be inductive, but it isn't.
Yep.
So they'll say it is and describe how it is, and then use Karl Popper incorrectly as the example, so that they can shoehorn in their pseudoscience when they've claimed it's real science.
They know what they're doing.
No, they don't. They actually think that science is induction. I'm telling you, he wasn't lying. There was no lying in him, and I think Nathan's got it exactly right. They think that that's the scientific method in their mind is based on induction, but it's actually pseudoscience. So that's the only trick. Now I can't speak for all of them, because I think at least some of them can fog a mirror. This isn't rocket science. This is right in your face stuff. I don't have to go digging into Karl Popper, even though I read a lot. You don't have to spend too much time reading his material to figure this out. It's usually the first page. Right? He'll go into falsification, the importance of falsification, but man, induction is all over this. And like I said, his screaming example is the black swan fallacy. So everyone's heard something about the black swan even before the black swan argument came about. Everyone at least had heard this in let me quote unquote scientific circles, right? So this isn't a big surprise. That's why I'm shocked to hear Popper's name and science always uses induction at the same time. it's a paradox. But you'll hear it. Keep your ears open out there. You'll hear it.
I always thought it was
the
a
end of the
tactic it is.
Go ahead.
You give him too much credit, I get told off for this, so I'm going to tell you off for it. You're just giving him too much credit. And again, this speaks to what I said at the beginning of the show about having too much empathy. When you sort of assume the best, they're being psychologically intelligent about this. They're being devious. You know, that's all intelligence. Well, I don't think that's the case either. I think they've just got a bit of rhetoric off Wiki and just parroted it.
That's exactly what's happening. Exactly. Now,
Here's what I'm thinking.
Presentation. Go on, Neil. Sorry.
Go ahead, Neil.
If I can understand this, and they are educated more than I am, how are they not understanding it? I'm always thinking it's a tactic it is, and they know exactly what they're doing.
No, you're giving them too much credit, like Nathan said. You think they're smarter than what they are.
They've scratched the surface of what they're researching, then just repeated what they've researched verbatim.
Yep.
And then after the fact, when they're challenged on it even remotely, they've got to pull from information they don't have. They've got to scramble around the nonsensical bullshit that they've actually formed by doing a little bit of surface level Wikipedia research. All you end up with is either them looking very stupid, or lying, or exposing themselves as pretender clowns. If you just dig a little bit into what they've actually claimed. I'm going to get Q back onto his presentation just with a quick summary. So in terms of hypothesis construction, we've got abductive reasoning in terms of the scientific method itself. When it comes to fruition, that would be experimentation. You've got deductive reasoning. In terms of induction, it is not a part of the scientific method. You're only going to look at Karl Popper to find that out.
Yes, not only, like I said, I gave them an example also, just apply it. So it's not just, somebody saying it, just put it in the hypothesis. It's non sequitur.
Brian as well. Hello, Brian. Good to have you. How close to his mute button he is when he wasn't expecting to get a hello.
I gotcha.
Hey lads, how are you? Hey QE.
What's up?
How are things?
Good.
Yeah, I've just been listening just the end of it there. At the end of the last section, I've been busy, so I haven't been on. The word induction, would the word induce be connected to the word induction?
You could, yeah.
No, because most of the things that they have on our opposing side that they claim are effects, most of them, they're like, because they have to be, most of them are just induced, man-made induced, aren't they? Would that be connected to the term induction? Or
Yeah,
would that be wrong?
You'd have to get specific.
Well, the Cavendish pseudo experiment.
Well, it's already a pseudo experiment. I'm sorry, pseudoscience. That's killed right there.
So would you consider that induction? Sorry, Nathan.
I could
go ahead
and say
no, go ahead,
an
Nathan.
example with your if A then B then not C then therefore C is A and therefore B. That was your inductive example, right? I can't remember the exact logic that you used.
That was really good, man. I liked it. Yeah, well, like I said, it's killed at it's killed by the scientific method. Whether it's induction or I don't think you can even get to that point where it's even induction, right? You don't have an observed natural. It's dead right there. You don't have a dependent variable. Over. Right?
Oh, right. Yeah, well, that makes sense because there isn't even anything to use the definition of induction with.
Exactly.
In that case.
Exactly. You got it. Because remember, the subtle difference between abduction and deduction is based on cause and effect. So,
okay.
Yeah, you see it?
No, that's after clearing that up a bit for me. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. That's where you catch them. Like I said, it dies before it even gets there. All right, let's wrap this up, man. Nathan, you're going to like this because you brought this up before. So here's one game the pseudoscience priests and those that parrot those priests are playing. That's a lot of P's. Was there a lot of plosives there? Example. We're good. Yeah, because I'm away from my mic, man. You got me. I'm so insecure with the plosives now that I'm crippled. So this is the game that they play. Check this out. So example, observe a phenomenon. We'll just say sailors appear crippled, bleeding gums, tooth loss, and have poor wound healing after long sea journeys. Let's say that's our observed phenomenon. So the plausible causes, i.e. independent variables, are numerous, right? Especially, remember, we're just coming into this situation new. We already know what the issue is, but pretend that you don't, right? So what are the possible causes here? So prolonged exposure to seawater, inhalation of aerosol seagull droppings, prolonged exposure to swabbing the deck cleaning solution, prolonged rolling and pitching of the ship, poor air quality, especially below deck, caused by smoke from the candles and tobacco, mold, mildew, vapors from tar and waste in the bilges, and hydrogen and carbonic acid gases from the ventilation systems, right? That's just right off the top of your head. What about what we don't know? You see, there could be 30 possible independent variables or causes for that effect that we witnessed in step one. So what do? Do we pull a bevy of current scientists and roll with what most think it is? And then call it science? Well, because they're scientists, right? So let them make their best guess without doing any testing, and there you go. No one would ever do that. That's not science. Or B, do we test every possible cause, read independent variable, and validate the effect, the dependent variable, or the prediction? That's science. This is science. This is religion. Guess what most of the so-called sciences employ? That, and call it science. So this makes perfect sense, right? We're going to test every possible cause, man. We got to figure out what's causing it. Like I said, today's science, which is religion, paleontology, anthropology, archaeology, geology, evolutionary biology, whatever that is, and yes, I'm still laughing, theoretical physics, non-experimental, astrophysics, astronomy, and cosmology. They roll with the pole, A, because they're unable to validate or confirm anything by experiment. Most can't even get to the first step. The ones that can get to the first step, they don't have any viable independent variables. It's over. They can't get to the hypothesis. It's over. All of them. All of these are guilty of one or the other. For all these guys, I don't think theoretical physics even tries. But all these guys, what are they going to do? They need a time machine, right, to observe a natural phenomena. What they do is conjure the causes after the effects have seen for years. Can't do that. It's not science. Pure conjecture, right? So like I said, all those pseudoscientists, they roll with the pole, A, because they're unable to validate or confirm anything by experiment. Then they say, this is the cool trick right here, right? Then they say, what's the problem with that? It's transistors work. Therefore, spinning balls, multiverses, dark matter, evolution, Big Bang, billions of years ad nauseum are scientific facts. What in the flying Fukuyama is that? Is that a little Jedi mind trick or something? Wake up. That's the trick. This is the trick that they pull. Right? You've heard it before. I'm not telling you anything new. Right? Even if sometimes they don't say it, it's implied heavily. Sometimes they'll just come right out and say it. Right? The baltards. Well, we have computers. And you think that's an argument? When I hear that, I just start twirling the nail spike 44-inch Louisville Slugger because it's going to get deadly in the next few seconds. Oh, it's just malarkey. They just tattoo pretender clowns right on their foreheads. And the last topic, scientific predictions. Scientific predictions are not Gene Dixon, Edgar Casey, Jimmy the Greek, Mystic Meg, Nostradamus, or Carnival Tent predictions. That's not what we're in business here for. I think most people know this intuitively, but people get confused by this word, prediction. Right? If somebody says it real fast, you're going to hear it constantly. I heard it at least 25 times yesterday during the hour that I was with them. Maybe I was out there a little bit longer. And what always comes with this? Models, right? Models predict, right? Or you're going to hear predictions, right? Yeah. The moment you hear this word, always go to the hypothesis because that's what a scientific prediction is. We're going to get there. Before that, remember, from Anne-Marie Helmenstein, PhD, Biomedical Sciences, words have precise meanings in science. So when people say semantics, I don't know. Baltards, do you think that's like an argument or something? If you say semantics, do you think you've won something? I don't know because I hear it all the time. Well, that's just a semantical argument. Yeah, we're using words. We're defining our terms. Yeah, it's called the Socratic method. Yeah, that's what we do. It's like, I don't get it. I really don't. I guess there's a negative connotation with semantics, or they don't know what it means. That's probably it. Right? Science, words have precise meanings in science. You remember when even the pseudoscientist, Mary Schweitzer, remember? She pains on telling her students that words count. Words are important. Choose your words carefully. She said she drives her students crazy on it. Even the pseudoscientists know that. Then why are you bugging semantics? It's mind-numbing. You argue like half a sissies. You have no clue with what you speak of. So remember, prediction. Scientific hypothesis is the prediction. It's just another word for a scientific hypothesis. If you use prediction in a scientific context, that's a scientific hypothesis. Don't believe me? Colorado State, scientific hypothesis. A special kind of prediction. There, it's over. That forecast how the independent variable will affect the dependent variable. From Penn State, the scientist applies his or her present knowledge to predict the effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable. The prediction is a statement of the expected results of the experiment based on what? Well, the hypothesis, because the hypothesis is the prediction. That is the independent variable, dependent variable relationship. And the prediction is often an if and then statement. It's over. What are they going to do? Nothing. So to have a scientific prediction, you must have an independent variable and a dependent variable. In other words, a viable scientific hypothesis. That's it for today, folks. It's just that simple. Questions, comments?
Summary, have we got more on the scientific method, or is this the last in the series, so to speak, till we do it again?
Nah, we got more.
Okay, no, cool. I could do this indefinitely.
We might circle back and start over again.
We'll cover other subjects in between, but it's good to constantly cover it, and worthy of constant covering, because it's the most prevalent argument from their side. They've got science, and they're telling you because they want you to believe they've got something empirical. Then they'll present up their statistics, and you won't know the difference if you don't know the difference. So here we are, explaining to you what the difference is between what you're hearing the word science attached to and the actual employment of methodology that gives you an empirical result at the end. That's what it's all about. Science offers empiricism, a powerful tool, also very narrow in its application. Very few things can be shoehorned into the method unless you've first got something to observe occurring in nature and you've come up with an idea for what you think causes it. You can then formulate that into if A, then B, or your null, if A, not B. And then upon varying A, you either prove it causes B or you don't. And if you don't, you validate that's prove your null. Therefore, you're going to be proving something at the end of it. Well, that's not something to be taken lightly. You are always going to prove something at the end of the process. You're either going to prove your null or you're going to prove your alternative. Now, obviously, the whole point of the process is to prove the alternative. You never test the null. You're not trying to get a zero difference result. You can do that without setting up anything. You know, I can sit here and get zero difference results without even doing anything. It's easy. Yeah. So you don't test the null. You're only testing the alternative, which is if A, then you'll get the effect. In other words, that's the genius of Adam argued that there was a certain degree of induction that's going to be applied when you're postulating this, right? When you get down to the actual construction of hypothesis, you know, there's only abduction applied, and there's only going to be deduction applied at the experimental stage. Yeah, when you're out in the ponderance and, you know, the fairies are flying around in your head and everything's all joyous and you can hear the classical music going. Yeah, but that's irrelevant to the method itself, right? When you get down to the nitty-gritty of it, you're going to be proving something. And the reason I've stressed that twice is because that is the reason why they say it. At a very early age, and I've said this every single one of these presentations, we all got told what science is, how powerful it is, and how it proves things. And that's going to leave a lasting impression on absolutely everybody. And a lot of people in industry, in commercial endeavours, use these words. Often they'll also disclaim the mathematics that they're using, the abstractions that they're actually employing, and then calling them science because they've done a very thorough job measuring something. Therefore, they're a scientist. Therefore, this is empirical. Well, unfortunately not. Very, very narrow in terms of its application, and QE said it several times in this presentation alone. You haven't got a cause and effect relationship to establish the cause of, you're not doing science. And you might cry foul, oh, that's really narrow. Yeah, it is, isn't it? Things that offer an empirical result at the end are going to be narrow. Not going to be super expansive. Therefore, their legitimization of their pseudoscience that the dusty old empirical method was a bit too narrow. We needed to broaden our horizons. Yeah, well, your broadening of your horizons doesn't come with the added bonus of still maintaining the empiricism that the actual method you're calling dusty old and out of date employed and gave you at the end. You don't have that at the end of your pseudoscience. You don't have that when you come up with a just so story why men have got bleeding gums at sea. He employed 17 scientists and they decided it was definitely down to the mold below deck. Oh, really? Yep. And here is our vaccination against mold below deck. Take it and you'll all be fine. But what do you know? They've all still got bleeding gums. Well, the scientists, they had the most likely outcome. How could they be wrong? Well, because they didn't have any empiricism, they didn't do any testing, they didn't formulate a hypothesis. All they did was look at the phenomena and come up with a just so story. And what was it they cried to you when they did so? Oh, we don't employ that dusty old method of empiricism and testing stuff based on what we think causes this. Oh, hell no. No, we've evolved beyond that. Evolution, what's that?
Doesn't that make it powerful, though? The fact that it is so narrow?
It's a bit awkward. It doesn't. The power doesn't come from its being narrow, no. Power comes from its empirical outcome based on the null and alternative being formulated without the law of non-contradiction being capable of being violated if you actually employ an experiment. Therefore, if you do an experiment, you can't not prove something. Yeah? If you vary something, see if it causes the thing you're studying. So you've got an effect, you see something occurring in nature. Yeah? Leaf falls off tree. Oh, that's a phenomenon. I wonder what caused it. Well, if you then vary how much deodorant you put on, be completely unnatural, yeah, and it doesn't cause the leaf to fall, then you can say, I varied A, deodorant under armpits, and it didn't cause leaf to fall off. Well, you've actually validated FA not B. That's your null. So you've proven it. You might say, oh, that's just stupid. Well, no, it isn't. You've actually done an experiment. Not that anybody's going to do my farcical experiment, but you know what I'm getting at. I'm taking it to the sense of nonsense because in many instances, you're going to be testing something. When you actually establish the cause later down the road, you'll look back on the things that you varied and go, why did I ever think that caused it? So obviously not that now I know. Now somebody somewhere has got the genius to actually figure out what caused it, vary it, and prove that it caused it. Then everything else seems stupid. But until that point, you don't actually know. All you can do is prove things it isn't. Not just as powerful, you've still proven it isn't that. So long as your objective isn't to prove it isn't that, because you, as I said earlier, you don't test the null. You're not trying to prove it isn't deodorant. That's silly. You're trying to prove it is your armpit deodorant content that causes leaves to fall off trees. That's the purpose. You're trying to prove that is the cause. And when you prove it isn't, because you vary it and it doesn't cause it, you've proven it doesn't cause it. Like I say, that's powerful. That's where the power comes from, Neil.
I got you. But if you don't put deodorant on, that will blow leaves off a tree.
And in isolation. I mean, when I put my deodorant on in my bathroom in the morning, that's not going to affect whether the leaves fall off that day.
Really what you're saying, though, Nathan, by saying what you're saying, even though it's a ridiculous example with the deodorant, the point is that everything that isn't the cause is not the cause, isn't it? Everything that is not causing the effect is just not causing the effect. So it doesn't matter if it's deodorant underneath your arms, not causing the leaf to fall. It's like the whole point is that it's not a cause to that. And that's the whole point of the scientific method, finding the cause. Otherwise, what would be the point of any of it?
Exactly. All it does is prove things. That's its whole point. The fact that it has empiricism when proving things, specifically cause and effect relationships. That's all it does. So, oh yeah, I don't have to send it into farce. You come across the boiling hot spring and go, I wonder what causes that. You haven't even got a name for it at that particular point. What causes the bubbles in the water? You haven't even named it yet. I dub this phenomena boiling. I wonder what causes it. Well, at that point, bearing in mind you've got to be under the understanding in this example that you don't know why water boils, but at that point you go, well, I think it's the acid content. If you genuinely don't know what causes it, there's nothing illegitimate about having that as I was about to say a presupposition, a supposition of the cause. Nothing wrong with that. Suppose acid causes it. Well, okay. Do you, A, go back to the town and say, hey, everybody, I surveyed 15 people around that boiling spring and they all agreed with me. Acid caused it. All right. 15 people agreed with you. Yeah. Wow. Let's go forth and tell everyone else. In fact, write it down. Let's put it in Wikipedia. Oh, I think acid causes it. So you then formulate your null. If A, that's acid content, then not B, not boiling water. And you're actually going to test if A, acid content, then boiling water. Add acid to water, does it boil? Or no, it didn't cause the effect I was looking at. Something happened, but it wasn't what I thought. Okay. So then you rule it out. You've then validated your null. Then you go, well, what about heat? And so the story ends with you validating the presumed cause at that point of the effect. Well, that's it. It's just that simple. Once you vary the thing you think causes it, the only thing you've got to do thereafter is have other people do it for you. A lot. Make sure you've got it right. That you haven't accidentally done something wrong in the process. Well, that's the systematic part of the experimentation stage. Always said specifically when QE does these presentations, systematic experimentation, not just once. Do it again and again and again and again and again and again and again. You know, refine it to a degree. And an example of that would be going from photographic plates to what do they call them now? The sensors that they've got, instead of just a piece of silver oxide or whatever they used to use with the photograph plate. In the double slit now, you can use a sensor. That's just a refinement on the exact same principle being demonstrated, because it's being done systematically. Still being done, right? People are still doing it. Still validated. But that process offers you the empirical outcome that heat will always boil water. Knowledge of the which path will collapse the wave function. The reason that you're always doing it over and over and over again is to show that it always is the case that A always causes B. Never a time when you do it, you set up the apparatus, you vary the thing that was originally assumed but now validated to cause the effect, and shock horror, it still causes the effect. Yeah? So that's it. That's a powerful, powerful tool, narrow in nature, and is going to be employed by people who want to make their claim, their just so story, their statistics, their abstract description of something that they think causes an effect. They're going to want you to believe that they actually have the real cause of it. They know. This is proven. How? Well, science says it's proven. Science doesn't have lips. It doesn't say anything. It's just a method for validating causal relationships by validating them by variation of your presumed cause to see if it does or doesn't cause it. Not that complex. I'm done. That's my waffle over.
That was a good one, man. I liked you were on a roll. Correct. Everything. Again?
I said more, but I got to blow my nose.
Somebody said in chat you need some Vicks Vapor Rub, man.
Not gonna cure my scurvy, is it?
No, it's not cure scurvy. I'll tell you that much. Man, my parents used to douse us with that when we got back in the day when we got sick. Oh boy, was that stuff nasty.
Eyes on fire with that stuff.
Yeah, that's never forget that smell. I don't know how we got on it. Ooh, that smell.
I have blown my nose. I will round out the last thing I wanted to say, which is that you'll recognise this unilaterally across almost all mediums, all dissemination of information in all styles and types. You'll hear this after hopefully listening to these presentations a few more than just once, and get the idea of, when your spidey sense should be tingling. You know, the most overt example is Timotei ads. Now comes the science part. There's never been a natural phenomena at Laboratoire Garnier Paris, right? They're not studying natural phenomena. Now, there might be certain things that they're employing in terms of the chemical agents that may have come with some origins from science. Yeah, I'm not going to deny that anything they've ever used has had any science ever attached to it. They very well might likely have had some science at some stage in something that they've employed. But what they are doing when they develop a man-made product, there's absolutely zero science in that. You know, the way they make the hair more shiny.
Yep.
But they want you to believe that their product will make your hair more shiny. Well, how do you know that it's going to be more shiny? 'Cause science says so. Well, no, science didn't say so. Science didn't have lips. But you'll know next time you hear it. Next time somebody's talking about how accurately they've measured something. I get examples of this all the time when I'm looking at acoustics at the moment. So our diaphragmatic absorber has been measured and measured and measured. We've gone through reiterations after reiterations to get these diaphragmatic absorbers and the carbon-based inserts that they use to be the most powerful on the product. The science proves it. You go, what? What science? You did trial and error, you troubleshooted, and then you measured. That's maths and troubleshooting. What do you mean this is science? Acoustics is science. No, it fucking isn't. Excuse my language.
I heard it. I was watching the football game the other night. I heard it 3 times. Scientifically tested. And none of it was science. Yeah, you're exactly right. I hear it all the time. Now that you say it all the time, so I've been listening to it. And yeah, anyone just listen to TV or radio, you're going to hear it over and over and over again for people selling products. Just the way it is. Too funny.
Another way of recognizing when you're being sold a product as well. I mean, maybe this has been more prevalent to me because I've trained majority of my career in sales. And recognizing when you're being sold to is actually quite a trick. A lot of people don't know when they're being sold to.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just give you a hint. It's always. There's almost not a moment that goes by that something isn't being sold to you. We're selling something to you right now. Yeah, we're selling you our education. And you might think, well, I'm not exchanging anything. Yeah, you are, audience member. You're exchanging your time. And that's something that's been traded between you, quite literally, you, Mr. Audience, Mrs. Audience, Ms. Audience member, and us right now. That's a trade that's taken place. And if you're not conscious of that, you won't see the value in what you've given up for it, and you won't see what's been sold to you. You just won't recognize it. That's quite an important thing. So there's a saying that I read recently, something like, when you're not paying for something, realize that you are the product. I can't remember. It was a much better phrase than that. Something like that. If there's something that's free, you're offered something for free, you are normally going to be the product in that example. It'll be something that's going to be utilized from you. In other words, something is wanted from you by the person giving you something for free. And again, people don't realize that even to get you to take something for free takes you being advertised to, appealed to in some manner or another. And if there's no financial transaction, people they let the guard down. When it comes to certain aspects, back on track, like heliocentrism, don't know that when you're watching a documentary on it, that you're being sold something. There's no financial traction. Oh, well, it's just the same as you here on YouTube, right? I'm just giving up my time for this information. No, in that instance, not just the time and the matter of fact, because there isn't a matter of fact. You're actually being sold a religion. You just weren't aware of it. Well, now with these tools, the tools of understanding what science is, when your Neil deGrasse Tyson style character stands with an amazing array of visual effects going on, with him standing on some platform and all these stars and solar systems whizzing around him, and he says, scientists have found that, you'll go, woo, 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 woo. Oh, hang on, what's he saying? Is the next words out of his mouth going to be a cause and effect relationship based on natural phenomena? Oh, no, no, no. Scientists say that Millions of years ago, we had a big bang. And you go, huh? What? No, Mr. Tyson. You're lying to me, aren't you? You're selling me something. What is it you're selling me? Yeah, your bloody religious worldview. Heliocentrism.
That's why the questions were added to the housekeeping. I like, or the question. I love that question. Please provide a single scientific hypothesis in the entire history of either astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics. I love that question.
Anybody hear from Dr. Becky?
Oh, you took my breath away. That's exactly what with words out of my mouth, I should say, not my breath away. Yeah, that's when you get a comment like that. That's the crescendo at this point. A housekeeping question comes off the back of every single one of these presentations. And exactly, it's the crescendo to this devastating argument whereby we've been duped into believing the empiricism is there when they claim we're on a sphere flying through a sky vacuum at a stupid speed. Well, that's why we've been duped. It's a really critical point. So when you next, if you're watching this, members of the audience, you next hear the housekeeping question come out of my lips, any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics, know that is why that question, this is why that question is being asked. They don't have any science. Yeah? And it's to try and get, again, back to the sort of start of the show, we're saying the flat earthers don't know when they've won. This is a perfect example. You get into talking about pseudoscience experiments and talking about how Cavendish might infer this or induce that. Right, Brian? You can spot the trick by just asking some of the simple questions, knowing in your mind that, okay, what's the process? Observe natural phenomena, formulate hypothesis, form systematic experimentation. Just knew those three things. I'm not pooping you, Kiwi, but but a lot of this presentation today was talking about study of previous literature after the phenomena's been. You can drop that. You don't even have to know that. It makes sense though, doesn't it? Right? If I come across the boiling water and I don't go to the library and see if someone's already figured it out yet, I'll be a bit dumb. When I turn up with my, hey, check out my paper, I figured out why water boils. They'll be like, yeah, that was already done quite some time ago. If you didn't go to the library and do your research, you wouldn't know that. So that's why it's in there as a step. You don't need to know that. You just need to know, observe natural phenomena, formulate a hypothesis, perform systematic experimentation. That's really all you need to know. Those are the bare bones minimum. And when you hear Cavendish experiment, you can go, okay, what's the phenomena that's being observed? When they go, two balls moving towards each other, you can say, that's not natural. Where does that happen in nature?
That's another subject, but we already went over that, nature or natural versus synthetic. You'll still have these numpties stumble over each other with that. I find that hard. In fact, I find it all hard to believe. These are simple topics and concepts, man. I don't get it. Well, I should get it. They don't know the difference between level or curved line. So that should, send off the alarm bells and the red flags. Because if they can't get that, okay, now I can't understand it. It's ridiculous. So, but they're easily embarrassed. Just embarrass them and move on. Don't let them go. Don't let them red herring fallacy away. Just hammer them to death.
It's true for everything, not just flat Earth. So, here's somebody making a claim of science. This is true universally, as I said earlier. Just same principle applies. Where's your natural phenomena? What's being observed? Can you tell me that statistically this many people are affected? Okay. What was the natural phenomena actually observed here? Yeah? What was established as the independent variable assumed to be the cause of this phenomena you've just described? If you get that far, you probably in most cases don't get that far. What's the phenomena being observed? Is this statistical analysis? What? I don't know. Show me something happening in nature. Show me that bit. Often there's no phenomena to study.
It's pretty funny, isn't it? It's non sequitur. Stupid. Where's Betty at? Shout out to Betty. It's stupid. I got a guy in chat. I'm sorry. I got a guy in chat right now saying science is inductive. I am not lying to you people. Right now. Not in the YouTube live chat in BALLBUSTERS right here. After all that I went through, he still says science is induction. You just can't. They're brain dead.
You should be trolling.
I was just going to say, after all of that.
Unbelievable.
If we take
trolling. Go on, Brad.
Sorry, Nathan. I was going to say, if we take the phenomenon of some things fall, right? Some things. And then we correlate that with a belief we have that we can't support. And we just move forward with that with no validation whatsoever. And then years and years later, some other guy will come along and he'll change the whole thing, but call it a similar name. And that will involve all kinds of mathematical equations that that the everyday person has no idea about. Then we can end up where we are today. And I suppose induction has to have been a part of that, yeah? Along the lines. People inducing stuff.
Yep.
Or, they have to be. So that's where your induction gets you, to the guy in the chat. That's where you get. You get to a point where you have a load of claims that you can't support. Isn't it?
Yep. You got it. That's where you get.
You end up looking really stupid at the end. If a bending geodesic in fourth dimensional space time, then gas go down, go boom, boom.
Mm-hmm. The next science presentation is very interesting. Probably one of my favorite parts. Can't remember what we're going over exactly. I know it's natural experiment. Oh, yeah, the birds humping natural experiments, observation studies. We're going to talk a little bit about the differences between natural law and scientific theory, which is really, really good. And you'll see at the end where it just all comes together, right? If it hasn't come together by now, but where it all comes together, we've attacked this from every possible avenue, and there's just no way out. It all lines up. There's no contradictions. It follows logically, right? It's over.
This is almost going to be the "This is not science" episode then.
To a point.
Natural experiments and natural laws, these things are not science.
Yep, to a point it will be. Some of it will be, most definitely. And we'll go over the game and something interesting that I brought up. I brought it up a few times, but I'm not going to give it away just yet. But something that's quite stark. It was on a Numpty Clips. Like I said, I've gone over it a couple times, but it should. If your eyes aren't open now, then it will definitely open your eyes.
Look forward to it. That's in 2 weeks' time. Be here or be sphere for the "This Is Not Science" episode. Right, Nathan Oakley, 1980.
Yeah. We can wrap it up, man. I'm good with it.
Cool. Yeah, I'm good. And we've got Truth Seeker. Do you want to add anything, Truth Seeker?
Yeah. Oh, before Truth Seeker goes, listen, like I said, I forgot to talk about this. Just 1 second, Truth Seeker. The link to enter BALLBUSTERS, right? If you have any questions, any concerns, any rebuttals, and say, you guys are off the reservation, right? And here's why. The link is right there in YouTube chat, right in the description box. Just click on that, come on in, and provide your claim or your argument. It's just that simple. Go ahead, Truth Seeker.
Oh, hey guys. No, I didn't have any questions or anything like that. I was just I was listening on YouTube. I just got onto Discord, and yeah, I mean it is pretty interesting. You always have these people, conflating these different terms and terminologies. They'll say it's a theory or a law, You know, so when you establish these citations, you know, then they try to weasel their way out of it, but it's all there, it's all clear.
Yeah, it's easily demonstrated, even without the citations are only there just to, you know, give you the headline, but it's easily demonstrated. And like I said, it just flows logically. There's just no way around it. Go ahead, Brian, you wanted to add something? Maybe I just seen a mute button come off.
But that wasn't me, Q, you know.
Ah, okay. Yep.
I think it's good. I mean, we're having a great deal of audience participation. There's some sporting event on today or something.
Oh, is there?
Oh, no, I don't know. I'm just asking. Typically, there's a lot more than one person joins Ballbusters, but there we go.
Oh, there must be. Don't they know better than to schedule stuff around my time of presentations?
They gotta know how to do it. They know how to do it. I got the Alabama game on Google while on Ballbusters. Gotta know how to do it.
You gotta know how to do it.
7 Bama.
Go Bama! From Greenbow, Alabama.
Roll Tide.
Too funny. Yeah. Just go down, write down. Brian, final thoughts, channel shout outs.
No final thoughts. I can't really add anything to it. I like that you went through abduction, deduction, and induction. I think that would be on its own is enough for a small presentation because it does confuse a lot of people. No, I have nothing else to say other than that. My channel is Brian's Logic on YouTube, and subscribe if you like, or don't. It's a free world. Thanks, Kiwi.
Or not. Oh, man. Neil, final thoughts, channel shout out.
Great presentation. Subscribe to Brian's Logic now. Brian is on fire, and he's ace, and he's got the structural support.
Thanks, Neil.
True Seeker, final thoughts. I know you just said your thoughts, but you got a channel shout out? Anything coming up?
No, man. Shout out to QE, to Brian's Logic, you know, Nathan Oakley, Neil, if Neil has a channel. I don't know, he's not active on it, but yeah, shout out to all you guys.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you, Christopher.
Nathan, take us home, sir.
Second that, subscribe today to Brian's Logic Mad channel. I typically have a show running at about this point, but I haven't. I've released my brand new show 7 hours ago, so check out my latest show, which is brand spanking new Flat Earth Debate 1534 Uncut and After Show, which is out on Nathan Oakley 1980 channel right now. If you want to check that out, Be Here or Be Sphere on Nathan Oakley 1980, and my second channel, Nathan Oakley, respectively. Subscribe to that, as well as there are brand new Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After shows that come out on weekdays. A massive thank you to all of today's Ballbuster panel for making today's Ballbusters possible, and of course a massive thank you to all of you in the live audience for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to Quantum Eraser for hosting today's Ballbusters. I've been Nathan Oakley, and we'll see you all in the next one.